job by making this wall unit is too pink. I want the pink tone down. I've created a glaze that got it to here. Now, the thing you might find surprising is that in order to kill the red, you got to go towards the other two primary colors, which are yellow and blue, which makes green. So I knew I was going to make a glaze that was on the green side, and as you can see here, it's quite green. It's still pickling. But this is what got me to here. So now that I know that works, I kept very close track of what I used to make this in a small batch, and now I'm going to make a large batch out of it just by multiplying it up 8 times. Okay, so I'm going to get ready to glaze this drawer to look like this one. This is your sample. Where's the sample? That was the thing the artist heard the most from me. Where is the sample? You compare this to every other piece, and if it matches this, then it should all match itself. So, but to first of all, I'm going to just clean this real quick with this wax wash to get fingerprints and oils and greases. This is very old. If you don't clean it, your glaze may absorb differently depending on the surface. I don't always use that. Sometimes I just use the denatured alcohol. Works well too, but want to be really safe, use that. So I'm going to test it a little bit here first and make sure, and then I'm going to do it. Now this is a little smelly. If I was going to be doing the whole wall unit, I would definitely wear a respirator too, because it just smells like heavy-duty mineral spirits. Anyway, just wipe it all off, and then wipe it with a clean rag. Let it dry for a few minutes. Also, if there's any nicks or discoloration or anything else on your piece, it helps to take care of that first, unless it's just so subtle you don't know if it'll be showing up. There were some marks on here. I got some 3/0 steel wool. Lots of times I'll just go over the surface of whatever I'm about to do. It doesn't scratch the surface, but it'll get off any little nibs or anything. And there was a couple of black marks in this that came right off with the steel wool. So that's good. And then make sure you get all steel wool pieces away from your surface. So, okay. When I did this drawer, I just brushed it on and brushed it off. With this is just an inexpensive staining brush from Home Depot, but to take it back off. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your glaze on heavier than you want it to be, and then take it back to that point, comparing while you're doing it. So, but if I was doing a larger wall unit, I might use one of these, and I think I'm going to try this right now. Try to get it on there get the glaze on evenly. So, that'll be way more than enough to do this drawer. These are the roller covers I used. So there are no inside corners on this, like see that would be an inside corner. If you are working where there is inside corners, you don't want to get too much of this glaze in the inside corner, because then you're just going to have to work to get it out. And if you leave too much in there, it's going to look green. So it probably wouldn't hurt to brush this out a little bit with an application brush, although it's pretty good. Now, I'm not doing these edges, but you could do it at the same time if you want to do them, or do it later or afterwards. The main thing is the top. So if you wanted to just sort of get it into the surface, this would be your application brush. But see, if you put it on, if you try putting it on with this, it's going to be harder to get even like that. So then this brush, I'm going to usually take it back off and smooth it out. And then you're going to be wiping this brush off. Just start brushing it off. You can see how far away we are. I don't know if you're getting the color the way I'm seeing it, but so you can see you got a long way to go, but any hairs out of it. This brush has got to get a little bit of the color in it. And really, this is set too high. For me, really, I would prefer working where I was a little higher. But seeing, like right now, you can see where there's, I don't know if you can, but there's some lines in it where the brush is kind of taking too much off and causing lines. You're going to take it down past that spot anyways. And also, don't forget, I'm just going to tell you now, you can do it at the end, but make sure you wipe off your edges, unless of course you're doing your edges. Here, I don't know that. I have to ask the client if they spend time on that. truthfully, probably never see it. And then as bristles are going to fall out of this brush. So I'm going to actually stand on this chair because that's where I'd rather be. I got a fan above my head. It's a better vantage point. Now if you're going to start going in, you can try coming in off the edge too, but I most of the time I'm going off the edge. Yeah, it's getting there pretty quickly, as you can see. I don't know if you can see, but you can see this is still much whiter than this. It's getting good over here, but just keep going until you got it. These drawers, these actually are going to be sitting right next to each other. But even if it wasn't, the closer you can get to the sample, then better off you'll be. See, there's too much getting wiped off. Using a brush to remove glaze was sometimes you turn it a little bit sideways like that and you'll get more off. The straighter on you go, the less you get off. And you know, you'll figure out the pressure that you need to be pressing down, because you press too hard, you take too much off. You can always reapply, because this is going to stay wet for a while. See, normally I would switch hands to this side. I don't know if you can see how there's some whiter grain back in the back there. You want to be sure you're going to be able to see that, but not too much of it. You got to have just the right amount of background showing through, as opposed to the little white oak lines that are full of the glaze. So just keep wiping until it looks good. Now, if for some reason you have a problem spot where something's happening, you don't know what, but like if it's wiping off too much, don't try to mess with it now. Just as long as it's less glaze than you're going to actually want at the end. Like if it's a little too pink, you can always put a little bit more on even after it's dry. Now see, I'm turning the brush sideways now to just give it a little bit more bite, or to get a certain area. This is where the finesse part comes in. I can see that this end is closer than this end. That doesn't look green anymore, does it? The other thing you want to do is you can pull your sample and look at the end. How does the end look? It still looks a little white because whatever's next to it, whether it's this or something else, you don't want it to look right. That looks like I need to take a little bit more off. Looks good. If it looks good from there, it looks good from here. This drawer actually got a little bit of a line on it where and then let's turn it around. Yep. Looks good. A little bit white there. Oh. It's upside down, but that's okay. There you go. And then final, wipe your edges. And that's how you do it. There's a little bit of a dent right there. I'm going to fill that after it's dry. I've got some colored filler, so there you go. And now I'm going to make a large batch out of it just by multiplying it up 8 times so that it's exactly the same. I measured it, tablespoons, teaspoons. The smallest increment was 1/4 of a teaspoon of this chromium, oxide of chromium. These are artist oils. Winsor & Newton is this type. I try to always use the same brand as when I make the original glaze, because you never know from manufacturer to manufacturer. Artist Loft is this. Winsor & Newton is this. And then Winsor & Newton also makes Liquid, which is the glaze vehicle. It thins it. It also helps it dry faster. Titanium white is notorious for taking forever to dry. So this will help. It's still, this drawer stayed wet for a couple days actually, although it was rather humid out too. So The other thing you can do is add a small amount of Japan dryer, which you can get at most any normal paint store or Home Depot. You have to be careful with Japan dryer though, because if you add too much, then your glaze dries too fast and becomes unworkable before you're ready to be done. So we can talk about Japan dryer at a later date. Right now, I'm going to take this small batch and make a big one. I've multiplied it out already. When you're mixing glaze, don't talk to anybody or get distracted so you lose count. This batch is going to be 16 tablespoons of titanium white, 8 tablespoons of liquid, 2 teaspoons of chromium, and then actually 2 more teaspoons of liquid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the liquid and the titanium together, and or the liquid and the chromium together in this smaller container, and I'm going to mix the liquid and the titanium white together in this container till I'm sure they're both mixed well, and then I will put them together. So first I'm going to put liquid in. So this will be 8 tablespoons of liquid in here, 2 teaspoons in here. Now I know I could multiply that out by ounces and go by ounces on here, but I want to be absolutely precise and use the spoons just to be sure. So I'm going to use that to scrape it out. So 2 teaspoons into this one. That's 2 teaspoons. Make sure you get it all out so you get a full batch in. 2. There's a little excess there, but not so much. So, not so much that it matters. Now, 2 tablespoons of chromium, oxide of chromium. Teaspoons. Did I say tablespoons? I meant to say teaspoons. Very careful about these things. See, there's a bunch of juice in here. It's kind of juicy in there. You don't want to get it all juice. The liquid oil. So mix it up a little bit. Maybe even just get out some of that, but really it should be part of the paint. this seems like overkill, believe me. Once you make the batch of glaze wrong and you start glazing with it and you don't realize it until later, it's not the same as the other part you did, you can screw yourself big time. You can have to do the whole job over again in some cases, so be very careful mixing your formulas. Okay, one teaspoon. Still a little juicy. Get it level. Okay. That's that part. Very good. Two teaspoons of chromium. That doesn't hurt a little. Check. Well, there's no check on here. Put a star. Did it. Two teaspoons. If I had a piece of paper, I'd check it off, but I don't. That's that, 2 teaspoons. Now 8 tablespoons liquid in here. This is when you want to make sure you're counting right. Doesn't matter if little green gets in here. 1. Now, when I first made this glaze and was testing it, okay, so that's 8. When I first was testing this glaze on the inside of a drawer, I had equal parts liquid and equal parts white, and so it was twice as much this liquid, and it made it so thin that it wasn't staying. It would just wipe right back off too farther than I wanted to, and it also wasn't coloring the white grain. It wasn't sticking in the grain. So I made a batch with half as much liquid, and that was just perfect. Behaved the way it wanted to. So don't thin it unless you're going to put Japan dryer in it. Don't thin it with spirits. Don't thin it with any more liquid or anything else. If you keep this in the freezer, it will stay wet quite a while. Now this original batch has a bit of a skin on it, but underneath it's still good, but that hasn't been in the freezer either. Okay, so I got the 8 tablespoons liquid. Check. Now I need 16 tablespoons of titanium white. That's a lot to be doing this way, but just to be sure, I'd rather be doing it in ounces. Supposed to be 3 tablespoons in an ounce. So that would be 16 divided by 3, 5 ounces and 1 tablespoon. That's almost this whole thing. So I'm going to be squeezing out just about this whole thing. And since it's so thick, might be a little bit difficult to get it level. But they have what it's called soft mixing white, but I don't know that it's exactly the same whiteness as titanium. So, you know, 2 wouldn't hurt just to go 1. I'm working on 1, number 1 teaspoon or tablespoon. You want to make sure there's no big gaps underneath there. 1. Check. This is also why you want to keep your formulas as simple as possible. And also, like when you're making a color, you don't want to just keep adding a bunch of different colors till you get there and then be like, what was that? How did I make that? I gotta make it again. Okay, so this is everything. Now, do I just stir it like this? Well, once I add this, it'll be everything, which the whole point of mixing these up a little bit separately is so you don't have unmixed color. A big, chunk gets missed of the green or the white and doesn't get stirred in with the rest, and you start using it and realize that also will make it the wrong color if it's not completely mixed. And then you screwed yourself. So, do I want to use this? Would be a good idea. But first of all, I want to mix up the green with the liquid that's in here so that isn't chunky. This is the main one. You don't want to find a lump of green mixed in once you've already been using it. So make sure your lumps are all out of it. Make sure you get it all in there. pretty clean. Get rid of that. Okay. Get rid of all this stuff because you don't want to get splashed. Now, go slowly. Go very slowly. The other thing is you're gonna have to clean this off. Get as much off of this too when you're done, and make sure this is clean before you even start. One slip, you go too fast, and it's all in your face and everywhere else. So. Turn it the other direction a little bit. Just knock this off for now. We're going to scrape the sides and we're going to mix it a little bit more. Just pushing everything down the sides of the jar and to the bottom, which is mainly greens. This is a wax palette. You can compare the colors. Although I'm not done mixing, but I'm going to scrape a little bit off the top of this first batch. And compare it to what we got. Looks pretty darn good. And if you pull it out real thin, you can get a better idea. Yeah, I can't see getting that much closer, any closer. Okay, so that's good. Scrape it all down, just get as much as you can here. Get off the sides, starting at the top, push it all down. Mix it a little more. Slowly start at the top. So we've mixed the glaze to the exact specifications as before. we've tested the color, because believe me, I've mixed colors, recipes to the exact specifications a couple times, and it's not right. I have no idea. Only thing I can do is, anyway, there's other colorants that you can use to make your formulas with, mix-alls or universal colorants, and sometimes those can get so old that they're a little thicker than they're supposed to be. So if you use an ounce of something that's thicker, it's going to be denser in color and therefore not going to turn out. So you can have the best practices and best of intentions, and sometimes it still won't work out. So hopefully that won't happen. So as you can see, this was the old color, new color. Pretty hard to tell any kind of difference there. So I'm going to put the original batch in with a new batch. This is made about approximately 14 ounces. Oh, yeah, right here, 14 ounces of the new batch. It never hurts to keep a little bit of the original batch. So just this dirty cup is enough.